Now,
Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's Writers Chat. This is the place where writers like to gather and we share information about writers and for writers and all about our writing industry. So we're glad to see you all here with us today. We got a lot of our regular crew and a few new faces in the chat. And if you're watching us by replay, welcome and thank you for taking the time to kind of grow your craft and learn more about where God's calling you with your writing. My name's Jean Wise. I'm one of the co-hosts here, and I'm joined by a lot of our motley crew, our regulars here today. Melissa, the kind of manning behind the scenes and doing our recording and that. Gian always adds a lot to us. And then one of my really good friends and stars is Johnny Alexander, and she's with us today too. And one of the other people that help behind the scenes a great deal with Writers Chat is Norma. And we asked Norma to kind of take the lead today, and she really came up with a unique idea, and something we haven't tried here before in Writers Chat. So we're going to turn it over to Norma to share what the topic is today, how we're going to do it, and hopefully we'll invite some different people back on and off as the show progresses. So Norma, take it away.
Well, I thought it would be really neat to do a critique live. And there's a lot of misgivings about critiques. And so we have three brave souls who have dared to share with us a one page from their work in progress. And there's some, in being part of a critique group with new writers, one of the things I've seen quite a bit is people think critique is the same as editing, and they do a lot of spelling correction and grammar correction. That's not really what a critique is for. Now, if it's a really blatant bad grammatical error, yeah, you want to help them fix that. But mostly a critique is to let people, the writer, know how their story flows. Is it reading? Do you have to, does it not make sense? Does a paragraph make you have to reread it several times to get the gist of it? That's the main idea of the critique, and it's not so much an editorial thing, but to let the writer know how your story, how the page or what they've submitted flows as a story. So and then the other thing we like to do is we call it the sandwich effect. When you critique, a lot of times there's red all over the paper and it doesn't look real pretty, and a writer can get discouraged seeing, for lack of a better word, a bloody page. And so to say, we start out first at the end where you make a comment, we would start out by saying something really nice. This is intriguing, this is a lot of potential here, and then you would go into, but there's too much telling, there's this, there's that, and then you would end with, I can't wait to read more, or this is good, this has me intrigued, something positive. So you have a positive, you have your critique, and then you end with another positive, hence the sandwich. So,
I really like your definition. I love the sandwich technique. That is such a great image. But even what you said about overall critiquing, because sometimes as a writer, somebody will ask me, I'm a nonfiction writer, and they'll ask me to look at their fiction work. And that is not my area of expertise, but I can certainly tell as a reader if I'm losing interest or if it's flowing. So I really like what you said about that on critiquing. I don't know if anybody else wants to jump in and say anything about critiquing right off on that. That's a great.
I like that too. It's a good definition, and it does help the person being critiqued.
Because an editor has their job. Oh, sorry.
That's true. Great.
I apologize. It appears to be there's technical issues on my end, and I'm sorry. I have no idea. I saw it and I thought it was me. I was charging my laptop at the same time, so I unplugged that and I thought everything would be okay. I don't know what's going on. We have had some issues with our internet here the last couple days, so.
And weather.
Pardon?
Weather can make a difference too.
Yes, and it was really stormy last night, like really bad. I was driving home and the rain was blowing sideways. Anyway, so I apologize for if we all kind of freeze. Hopefully we freeze in pretty faces.
Yes.
Right.
All right, so without any further ado, I'll go ahead and share. Well, let me pull it up first. I want to screen share what I've done, and I'm going to start with LaDonna. All right, let's see. I apologize. This is my first time screen sharing, so hang with me.
It usually takes me a few minutes to find that right document. So,
Oh, goodness.
even there, LaDonna saying yikes.
Yeah. We'll be kind.
Oh, yeah. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay. So right here where I highlighted in this very first sentence, she woke feeling like her mouth was stuffed with one giant cotton ball. Her eyes felt like they were glued shut. This is compelling, but it is telling.
Ooh, good rhyme.
I didn't mean it to come out that way. It just did. So LaDonna, you would want to fix this a little bit because we want to be careful from what I've learned. We want to try to avoid the word like. It feels like, it looked like. Tell us what it looks like. Describe it to us. And so as we go on throughout that, and that's what I said in the note. The other thing, and for some reason, when I redid this, it didn't copyright. I don't know what happened when I just now brought it up. It went kind of crazy.
Oh, it's all flush left. Yeah.
Another thing she had in here that it was all correct when it was on the other screen. I don't know what happened. Anyway, and it's changed font in the middle too. That's weird. I apologize, y'all. I don't know what happened. Anyway, in here somewhere she had swish, 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 and it was capitalized. And I don't see it here. So in a text, my question to you writers would be, she's hearing swish, swish, swish. Should that, but it's comma, comma, exclamation point. Should that be capitalized if it's in the middle of a sentence?
I'm looking for it too, and not.
I remember it in there too, and I can't remember what the style is on that. Usually when I'm doing something that emulates a sound, I will give it its own line and I put it in italics, and I would have left it capitalized as in its own individual lines.
Would you put commas between them, or would you put swish, period, swish, period, swish, period?
That I don't know because I'm bad at grammar.
I get a period more than a comma.
I would put commas and only capitalize the first one, but I agree with Melissa. I would put it on its own line.
Mm-hmm. That was one thing I noticed, if you don't mind my interjecting, is it will help with this scene because there's great opportunity for back and forth in LaDonna's work to when you have your viewpoint character's head and then you have the outside force, these in this instance these birds that show up, they should each have their own lines, so you have the action and reaction effect, and it also ramps up the tension because the birds are in essence a background character that's acting upon your focal character, and so they do need to have their own line for everything they do, and she needs her own line for everything she does or thinks.
That's good. Wow.
Yeah, that's good. And that I wasn't sure of. I was kind of thinking down those same lines. And yeah, I have to say something happened because I had several things on here and it didn't come up. My biggest thing, go ahead, Jan.
I can't get to my notes on it. You took the screen and I lost mine, but I remember the part where she said two large blackbirds were circling to the right of her head, and she had another spot with like left. I think she can tighten it up a little bit without putting right and left. I don't think that really helps explain the story. And that would tighten her sentences up a little bit.
Yes, yes.
And then the one where she was feeling.
One of the phrases that, the other thing I would, right. There's a couple things the other thing I would say is, LaDonna, when you submit, especially for a critique, you want it to be double spaced and indented. So that's why we only have not everything that you submitted, because by the time I double spaced it, so because if you went to a critique group, a lot of people do it by hand.
Right.
So you want to leave room to be able to write in there. But anyway, a couple of things I really liked. So we'll have time to get onto the others and open up for discussion. There, I'm trying to find it, sorry. I had highlighted it on the other one and now I can't find it. I like where she said about the big strobe light overhead.
You're right on it, right there.
Yeah, right
Am
there.
I right on it?
Right
Yeah,
about the
there it is.
middle.
A strobe light
Without the music.
without music was dancing instead of in her head. I thought that should be overhead, because you realize in a few moments that was the sun. And so I really liked that. I thought that was a good show. I mean, sorry. Yeah, a good show of what was happening. The other one that I really liked was, and I'm looking for it, where she said that something about a freight train. Oh, there it is. A freight train was traveling at high speed through her head. I love that, to tell us how bad of a headache she had. I thought that was really good. I like that.
Yeah. And I put a period there, took out and
Mhm.
then made the pain was relenting a separate sentence. It just made it pop better.
Yes.
I might add to, Rhonda touched on it, and it was one thing I did as well. A great thing for helping tighten your writing is to eliminate was and li or ling type words, to make it present tense. And Rhonda said a strobe light without music danced in her head. So that gets you right in the present of your character's head. You don't feel like it's a narrator describing what's happening to her. You feel like she's feeling it then. You're right with her.
I'm
Yes.
glad Melissa said that, because that was my main thing too. There are a lot of was being words in here, and they all just need to be changed to past tense and get that out of there.
Mm-hmm. And LaDonna, once you do that, once you go through and you look
Yes.
for your was and your ly adjectives, my brain is kind of in fart mode. I apologize. When you go through and eliminate all those telling words, you're gonna just be amazed at how tightened this comes and how much you feel like you're in your character's head more.
One real good example that is right up near the front, like about the fourth line down, and it was, she said heat was scorching, so it's just heat scorched. You know, you again just get that past tense verb right in there.
Right. That was the other thing that I noticed, that again and I already mentioned this, was the likes, and then I was going to talk about the was and the is. Like you said, Johnny, is that also part of passive?
Yeah, it makes it passive when you do it that way, and it's more active to say scorched than was scorching. So you want that activity. Yeah.
Good.
You know, one thing though I like, scorched is such a great word, and you know, so that was it's a very powerful verb. And I thought through here, there's some little issues, craft issues, but the story itself is compelling, and also there's just a good use of the senses. I mean, she's smelling things, tasting things. There's that metallic taste in her mouth. Just there's just all these different hearing things. So even though she's all by herself, it's really, I thought it was really good the way, LaDonna, that you made use of different senses and we're really there with her in that. And Melissa's right. Just by then paying attention to some of these really close craft techniques, it's just going to
Pop.
It is. It truly is.
I'm glad you used the word compelling, because like I said before we went on the recording, I did not spend a lot of time with this, but I did look at LaDonna's, and I found I really wanted to, I was there, I was there at the scene, so she does bring you in, and I think it's the sensory stuff, Johnny, that you pointed out.
Yeah.
I have a question as a writer, and Norma, I like what you said about using the word like, and it's like, I just read, but I love metaphors. I really like the metaphors. So could we try rewriting? I'm trying to look what you had up here. I thought I just saw an as and what you've got on the screen share.
Well, for one of them, she had, here's one right here. The other one soared into the air like an airplane.
Okay, how would you redo that?
Is that what you're talking about?
So it's still it still uses the metaphor, the comparison. I'm curious as a writer, because I do use like a lot. I hate to tell you this because I love metaphors, but I probably too much. But I'm curious for some advice on that. For me, as much as for I'm sure some other people in the chat.
That doesn't bother me so much. So I think I must have missed the not using like. Sometimes you can just say it and leave it out. But Jeannie, I'm not seeing a freight train. Oh, I'm not seeing a freight train one that says, or the airplane. I mean,
the airplane one is in the first one. There was another spot. That one is actually okay. That wasn't one I originally had highlighted. But there's a couple that says feels like. Well, don't tell us it feels like. Describe how that feels.
Okay. So like can be used, but probably limited.
Yes, sparingly, yes. And sometimes you could, if you're using this, like an airplane, or in another spot she said like a dinosaur, you could say had similar to a plane, he soared whatever, or he reminded me of a dinosaur in the way he have his face, or
okay.
Sometimes you can find something else for like. It depends on what's happening. Sometimes like is the only word that works, and that's fine. Like is fine.
That helps.
In this scenario, liked is used quite a bit.
Okay. So really watch your mouth. And in the chat, and I want to compliment LaDonna too. Many people are saying she has some really great descriptive verbs.
Yes.
And Dory adds it's just really a beautiful use of words, not everyday words, is what Donna pointed out. It added so much color. And Rhonda said monstrous for dinosaur. That's not bad, on that. Think of descriptive words, but she really's got a good use of words.
Yep.
It's really good. I'm going to go back to the like a little bit, because it is hard when you're just on the spur of the moment trying to come up with different ways to say it, but you don't want to get too wordy in that either. And sometimes it's best just to say it was like this and move on, rather than try to do gymnastics. But back again, just to make sure we've got this point, I think the issue is with this first line, and I know it's not really the first line. The first lines are, the blinding sunlight and that. But this first line, it's feeling like, and then the second line is felt like. And so the issues there are the repetition, for one, which you would not want. But then the other is you need to avoid words like feel, know, realized, thought, wondered. All of those are taking you out of immediate point of view, that deep third person point of view. So you want to avoid those anyway. So anytime you see the word feel, felt, feeling, you want to go back and see how you can reword that and get that word out of there.
A great trick for that I found is to pretend like the senses are a character themselves. How are they acting upon your character? So, she's feeling pain. What kind of pain is she feeling? Is it stinging? Is it throbbing? So then when you think about the actual words, then you can reformulate your sentence to convey that sensation without using the terms feel or, those other extra descriptors you don't need.
I've got 2 other picky things. Is it okay if I
Sure.
share those? Okay. Oh, and to go back, this one, as she looked out over the edges, again, you don't want to say as she looked out. We know she's looking out. So I did rewrite that one to just say like miles of ocean stretched beyond the raft's edge. And that completely takes out they looked out over the edges and saw. You don't want that. You don't want that word saw in there. You don't want the word looked in there. And you don't need it. But my picky things, where it says there were sounds and there was a gentle rocking motion, there was, it was, it is. If you can avoid starting a sentence with those words, those phrases, do it. And usually you can just drop them. It's amazing how often, like the third line down that we're seeing on the screen right now, and there was a gentle rocking motion. A gentle rocking motion was beneath her body. Take out that there was. That is very passive. And sometimes you have to have it, or else, again, you're doing verbal gymnastics to avoid it, which just makes it more awkward. But usually you can just get rid of it and easily rewrite it. And my other one was searching. The sentence begins with searching. I think it should be right up here at the top. Searching her mind for her last thoughts, comma, it was blank. That it doesn't refer back to anything. So when you say searching her mind for her last thoughts, that pronoun should be she. And then the sentence needs to go on because she's the one searching her mind. So if you're going to use that kind of construction, make sure your pronoun is correct. This is a common mistake. I mean, I've made it. I've had editors say, hey, fix this. So that's, why now I kind of look for it. So make sure when you start out a sentence with an ing verb that the rest of your clause is going to go back to that verb.
In that sentence, Johnny, originally before I brought it up on screen, one of the comments I had made was to perhaps take out it was blank. Just take that out, and I had it searching her mind for her last thoughts, nothing. Nothing. Like there was nothing there, or someone.
But really, there needs to be.
I am saying there was nothing.
Yeah. There again, you've got an it was, which I just don't like. But it's almost like probably the whole sentence needs to be rewritten.
Yeah.
She searched her mind for her last thoughts. Nothing. That's actually probably how I would write it, and get rid of the ing altogether. Mm-hmm. But then you've got, the next sentence starts with she. So then it's like, you want to vary your sentences. So, I know that's why sometimes we start, it's why I start sentences this way, is right, to vary the opening. But then, it sometimes causes more issues. So you really just have to work at it. But again, LaDonna, it is a very compelling story. It's a very interesting story. And these things that we're pointing out are craft things that we all have to learn, and they're easy. They're time consuming, but they're easy fixes. I
love that, like has already been stated, the imagery. I could picture her on the raft in the ocean, the saltiness of the ocean, the sun like a strobe light, the birds. I could picture it all. It was great.
Is this the first? I'm going to ask LaDonna a question. So, and I don't have my chat.
If we want to bring LaDonna on, we can. If you want to do that.
Let me know when she's in. I am missing a lot of
I'm
this.
here.
Okay, here's my question. Is this the first page of your story, like the opening of your story?
It's the opening, yes.
Okay. I then am also going to suggest that we go ahead and give your character a name at the very beginning. This is often something that you see when writers are first starting out. And I think we think that it feels like mysterious if the character doesn't have a name and we just give her a pronoun. But actually that's so overdone that it kind of is assigned to editors of an inexperienced writer, I'll say. It's like if she's a she, we don't know anything. And by giving a name, it helps the reader identify with her even more. And, depending on the name, I think her name's Nicole, right? We're
Yes.
immediately going to have some kind of an image of a Nicole in our mind, where with a she, we know nothing. And it would be good in here if you could give us, without telling age, but give us some idea of, is this a young woman? Is this a girl? Is this an older woman? Just something like, I don't know. I don't know right off the top of my head how you would do that, but something to give us an indication of her age. But I would really start off with Nicole Woke, not.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Oh, this is great, but I'm so embarrassed. It's really good. I couldn't write fast enough.
Oh, this is fun.
Well, you can go back and rewatch it on YouTube, and so relax. This is good, LaDonna. This is good stuff. So please don't be discouraged. You have really great things here. As I heard the word used earlier that we use often, it just needs to be tightened up, just cleaned up a little bit, and it'll be a really good story. I mean, we're all very intrigued. We want to know. I want to know, how did she get there? How did she end up unconscious? I want more. I want more. So there you go.
That's good. That's what you want. So.
And I like that. Like towards the end, I think it is our very last line. Weren't there supposed to be two paddles just for luck? I mean, in that there's a little bit of personality in that phrase, and maybe we need a little bit of that. Maybe we need a little bit of that earlier too. Those kinds of just little thought things, because that's really good. Excuse me.
Thank you very much.
Any other words for LaDonna? You're muted, Jean.
Thank her again for volunteering. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice
Right.
job.
That was very brave, and it's a good story. Don't second guess yourself about that. Just
No, keep working on it. It's good.
Yep.
Thank
Good
you
work.
so much.
Thank you. All right.
Who's next?
Right now, let's see if I can switch to Sophia. Oh, sugar. Let's see what I do. I thought I just closed y'all out. I was about to come unglued. Okay, let me see if I have Sophia's up. Give me 1 second.
While you're doing that, I love Dory's comment about Rhonda emceeing the chat and doing nothing but give us websites.
Yeah, that was
Yes. Now I'm going to have to go back and look at the chat because.
Yeah, we'll work on that, Rhonda. That's not a bad idea. Resource Rhonda Day.
Exactly.
Yes.
Rhonda's best resources, and have everybody else bring a resource or something. I think we could do that.
Well, hang on.
Write that down, Melissa, so I don't forget that.
Exactly.
Have an opening on July 23rd.
There you go. That would be awesome. All right, here's the next one. Let's see if it behaves. All right. This is from Sophia. So do we want to bring Sophia on closer towards the end, or do we want to bring her on now?
Bring her on.
We can go ahead and bring her on.
Bring her on.
And hopefully my dog won't bark.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
mine have been, so I don't know if you guys can hear them, but I've had some barking.
Well, you can always mute until you have something to say. All right. So here we go. This piece, I know, is a fantasy. It didn't take long to figure that out. This first line where I have it highlighted, I feel like it's a little bit of too much telling. Same down here with the threatening and the bearing. There we go. And I thought this part right here should maybe be by itself, and then right here, the Aquana closed her eyes to decrease. I'm not real sure, and this was my comment that I put in there for Sophia, is when you have prose and inner dialogue, should they go in a paragraph together, or should it be, because this temperature, focus, kata, that's inner dialogue, right, Sophia?
Yes.
So then should that be in a separate line as it would if it was outward dialogue, and then start a new paragraph? I'm not sure about that rule.
I don't know that there is a rule, a hard and fast rule on that.
Does anybody know?
It can go either way. A lot of people like to treat their thought as a dialogue, and then the actions afterwards can go as a beat. I do have a comment about that particular one, even though we're kind of jumping down to the middle of the page right off the bat. If you don't mind me making that comment.
You go right ahead.
Okay, so I like the inner thought, the temperature, focus, kind of, she's trying to convince herself to, get control of the situation. And then we're pulled out of her head with the Aquana closed her eyes, because that's like an outside narrator. It's not her thought. She wouldn't think of herself as Aquana. And I know why you're putting it in there. You want everybody to know she's another creature. But I think that you can cut that and say she closed her eyes, and then throw Aquana in the dialogue of the guy, the pursuer. It's like, show yourself, Aquana. And then we see from an outside source, oh, she's not human. And we kind of already assumed that anyway, but now we have a name for her species to put with her, but it's coming from a source that's not her. So she's not thinking of herself as an Aquana. She knows she's an Aquana.
Very good. That's really good. Yeah.
So, well, I didn't mean to just jump right to the middle. I was trying to kind of go through my thing and then let y'all talk about what y'all think, but we'll go back to the top. So, anybody else have comments about these first couple paragraphs?
The first sentence, yeah. There again, if this is the very, very opening, the very first page, I'm not a big fan of having a sentence where we don't know who's speaking. And right. I love that I kind of like that we don't know who's speaking, because it's an other. I mean, for her, this is a threat and an other. But then I'd like to have that not be necessarily the first line, I guess. So, maybe something above that and then that. But it does, on the flip side, it does immediately set up tension. It sets up danger. I mean, there's some things either way, but it's something to think about because we don't have any idea who's saying this.
Right.
And I kind of like
wanting.
Well, I'm sorry, Jan. Let me just finish I kind of like it too, that it's just like we just hear this voice, and it's scary that we kind of don't know who it is, what it looks like, who's saying it, all that. So I think sometimes this might be one of those times when story trumps rules. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like this might be a good time to break a rule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you had me wondering what she was. So it's like, okay, I got to keep reading and figure this out.
Right. Well, and along with that, later on, this person continues to talk, and I think after this initial, you can't hide forever, the next time he speaks, we should probably be told then who he is, until waiting later. So I agree with that. I agree that, and that's why I didn't say anything about it. You can't hide forever. That adds some drama. That adds some fear. That sets up the tension immediately. And I like that first sentence, even though we don't know who's talking. It sounds like it's a force to be reckoned with, in my mind. So
When you add that the very end where it says, I will find you, I always do. And it's like, wow, that's creepy. And it's like, again, we don't know who this is. So yeah, usually I would say don't start that way. This time, maybe it is a good thing. And I think I've got to take care of delivery. So I'll be right back.
Right, anybody else want to add right here?
I like this description, actually, the bearing down to increase internal pressure, because this is kind of also another indication that this is not a human being, that she's able to control her internal pressure and it affects her environment. So I think that actually isn't a telling. I think that's a showing. I'm trying to think what I commented on in my piece in this area. I think I actually kind of like that line.
The thing I was going for is I looked through this one paragraph, there's several ing words, and I think that's what is typically indicative of telling, correct?
Actually, that's more just slowing it down. And so you could actually change those to past tense and make it feel a little more immediate. Her chest thumped rapidly, or her chest thumped and threatened. She forced her heart to calm. This dampened the thuds. I mean, you could rephrase it. It would have to be reworded, but to get rid of the ing if you don't want it to slow. The thing is that she's going from a state of immediacy into something where she's attempting to slow herself down. So using ing isn't necessarily bad. You might use a past tense to try to show a transition to slow, going from fast to slow. I haven't thought more on that one.
Anybody else? All right. And as I scroll down, I just looked, and for some reason, this whole bunch right here is single spaced. I do not know why. My computer's acting, it's possessed or something. Anyway, I enjoyed this story. I like the, she shrank against the trunk of seaweed, hoping to blend with its varied greens. So that tells us she's color. If she's wanting to blend with the greens, then she must be some kind of greenish color. I like that. Mm-hmm. I also liked, I'm looking for it. Where she was hoping, did I pass it? Where she, let's see. I also like the threading one arm along the wafting blades. She stealthily wrapped another around a mass of curls floating in the current. I like that imagery. Because then it sounds like she's trying to kind of be one with this sea plant. So I like that. I like the inner monologue where she's where she's trying to keep herself calm and not get caught by whoever this is that's trying to catch her. I like that.
And in that paragraph, she would have bound it after first meal. At the end of that sentence, I think I would make a new paragraph, making it stand out more, plus gives you more white space.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where
That-
exactly?
where are magmas when I need them? That's a thought apart from her actions. And so giving it its own line will make it stand out.
Right.
Okay.
Similar to what Melissa, you were saying back with LaDonna's, to separate the actions from the thoughts, making the actions kind of like their own character, so to speak.
Just like Jan said, that adding that more white space, it's a mental trick. You're kind of playing with your reader too. It helps their eyes move through the piece more and engages them.
I have a question about that because originally I had each thought on a separate line, but I almost found that to be distracting.
Yeah, and like I said before, it's okay to put it in with some of the descriptions too, especially if you're working it kind of like as a dialogue with the action, where the action is a beat to the thought, like it were dialogue. Then I think that they work to connect them. In this instance, we've been, she had an internal monologue, so it separates it from the internal monologue. She would have bound it after first meal. That's her internal monologue happening. And then we have a direct thought, where are magmas when I need them? So in this case, it's good to separate it because it can almost be drawing together. You're having an internal thought and then a direct internal thought.
But then don't you think then to keep the bright orange guardfish right after that and not make that?
Yes, definitely keep it on the line with where are magmas when I need them, because then it connects, because people are like, what are magmas? So yeah.
And you did a good job of that. I mean, and I'm sorry if you guys have already said this and I missed it, but you know, like you're telling what a magma is, but you're doing it in such a way it doesn't feel like telling. I mean, you did it really, really well. You're still using very strong, you know, language here, and it just makes it really cool the way you say it, and then you just move on.
Thank you. Because those are supposed to be Garibaldi's, but Garibaldi fish are named after an explorer, and that didn't make sense on a different planet. So I had a little hard time with it.
Yeah, I love your world building, Sophia. You're doing a great job of putting us into this world and this character right off the bat. You feel it.
And some of the word choices, and again, if you guys have already said this, I'm sorry, but like saying anyone within sight distance. I mean, just saying it like that is just like, okay, this is someone not from here. You know, and it's kind of poetic. And I think that the last italicized part is also, you know, the morning light is more shadow than shine. I love the poetry of that line and that rhythm. So, and then followed immediately by another, you know, I will find you. So then right back into that tension. And who is this person searching for her? And you want her to hide and be safe.
Yes. I think it's a great story. It has, I'm not a huge fantasy person, but I want to know what's going on. I want to know, why is she being chased by this kind of creepy sounding person? And you know, what's going on? What is this? Why is the morning more shadow than shine? Because usually in the ocean, right, there's a reason that there's more shadow than shine. Is it cloudy on the outside? Is something happening? So there's a lot of intrigue here that I don't have answers to, and I want inquiring minds want to know.
We do.
And the spoiler is that she's actually hiding from her sister, who wants her to step up her bridesmaid duties and wear tight fancy dress, and she's hating this. But in the next page, so that's who she's hiding from, but it makes you feel like the danger is that there's a world invasion going on that nobody knows about. So
well, awesome. I can't wait to read it. We have about 8 minutes left. Do we want to bring the others on to add their 2 cents, and we come out of share or leave the share up?
Let's come out of share so we can see people better.
Okay.
So let's invite everybody in for an overall reaction about this experiment we tried today. And final comments. Did it feel horrible to be on the spotlight, Sophia and LaDonna? I don't know if you guys want to say anything or add anything. And if you can't get in, I think we didn't take anybody off today, so I think
so.
Everybody should be able to bring themselves back on if you want to come back on.
And they were good stories. I mean, I really, you know,
They were.
so good job, both of you.
Very good. Thank you. I learned a lot. As a new writer, it's hard, you know. I don't really have an English degree. I'm a nurse.
Yeah.
So I'm learning a lot and listening to y'all. It was awesome for both stories. And
A couple years ago, several of us heard Robert Benson, and his book is Dancing on the Head of a Pen, not pen. And he talks about the 3 hats that the writer wears. And Johnny, help me remember them. The first one is a beret, maybe? It's the creative
one. Yes. I don't remember the hats themselves, but there was the creative hat, the editing hat, and the business hat. Is that right?
Yeah, it might have been.
Something like that.
There's the book. But it is the writing process that we can write down these originally. Then we have to go back and really put the different hat on and reach. It doesn't come in the first draft.
No, and I think it's great. Like with LaDonna, I mean, yeah, she's got a lot of, you know, the was verbing, you know, and all that through there. But you know what? When you're writing a first draft, and if that's the way you want to write it, get it written, get it down, get it on paper, because it is real easy to go back then and take that and go, oh, there's another one, and just change it to the past tense verb and go through it. So
you can use the find in the word, and then that'll help get through. Take one word at a time and go through and see how it can change. That's one thing that
exactly
Kyle.
Right. And look for words like felt. Do searches for those words, and feel and know and smile. I always have to do searches for smile because my characters are smiling throughout the whole thing. And so, you know, they smile all the time, grinning. So, you know, you kind of know your triggers, but write it. Just write it. Get it down on paper, and then go back and do this fine craft work. Because it doesn't mean you're a bad writer. You're not. You're just getting it down, and then you're going to do the craft stuff.
Yeah, you're discovering what they call your crutch words.
Exactly.
And well, all writers have them, and all writers end up making lists when they know that they have those crutch words they always fall back on. And was is one of mine too, so I totally empathize with was. I lace my first manuscripts with was, and then I have to go back and
I'll quickly mention a resource I found, since I am the resource queen. Yeah. I found an online service just randomly called autocrit.com, and I put that link into the chat. And I happened to get in. Now it is a for-fee service. I happen to get in every once in a while. They'll offer a lifetime membership for like $150. And what you do is you import the text, and it analyzes it. It gives you a score, and I love getting graded, but with a score out of 100, you know. But then what it does is it goes through, and it'll identify words that you've repeated. It'll identify phrases that you have repeated. It'll pick out those passive voice indicators, and it just does this analysis. And you know, some people have asked me, you know, how do you get such a great clean copy? Part of it is I never submit anything unless I've run it through AutoCrit, and it's been a big help to me. So you can, they have a free trial, you know. And if you're not a great editor, some people are great at self-editing, but some of us need a little more help. And having a kind of, and it's very objective. You know, it's not a subjective thing, and it doesn't say, oh, you're a great writer, or oh, you're a terrible writer. It just says, this is what's here. So I get nothing they've not offered to compensate me. I'm just telling you, I have found it very helpful.
That sounds very similar to both Grammarly and the Hemingway app. Have you compared it to?
I didn't know either of them before I got keyed into AutoCrit.
on that. You know, one comment that came up towards the end in the chat room, and I think it was from Dory, said, and it was for Sophia, that we really like how you've named your creatures. Very imaginative. I don't know, Sophia, if you want to give us a quick tip on creative names for our characters like that. You really do a nice job with that.
Yes.
Thank you. I mean, something like the magmas, that was really hard actually, because I was trying to describe a fish that I know exists here, but with science fiction and fantasy, sometimes you have to be a little logical and say they wouldn't name a creature on a different planet after a Spanish explorer. And so then I thought, well, you know, what's the color? And I brought it to mind that way. And that's actually a little bit of foreshadowing, because one of the disasters is that volcanoes are going to be set off from the core of the planet. So magma is going to play into that eventually. And honestly, you get a lot of critics too, because people said, well, Aquans makes me think of Aquaman. And I'm like, I can't help that. I thought of this idea long before Aquaman, well, the latest movie, and you can't always avoid references to something that's popular. And so you kind of have to go with your gut and try not to plagiarize.
Yeah. That's good insight. Anybody, it is almost noon. Anybody have any final comments while you think, if you want to jump in just before we go to the take it off recording and go to our after party? I will thank everybody. I do want to thank, first of all, I want to thank Norma for organizing this, and LaDonna and Sophia for being so willing, and I believe Melissa also sent something in if we had time. So thank you for being
Jan did too at the last minute. Jan's
Who did?
Dan
did too. Well, thank you, you guys. You will, and give us some feedback if you'd like us to do this occasionally. I really learned a lot, little tips. I made all sorts of little notes, so I do appreciate it. Real quick, while we're on the recording, there will be no Writers Chat next week. We decided, due to the 4th of July holiday, it's a busy week for people either having company or traveling or taking off or coming or going. We decided to take a midsummer break, so we will miss next week's Writers Chat, but we will be back July 9th. We believe it's going to be Bethany sharing some of her new marketing tips that she learned on our trip to New York City to the book Expo something. I can't think what the A, Association maybe. I don't know what the A stands for.
America.
Book Expo of America. Okay. And she got to go there, and I believe Rhonda was there too. Weren't you, Rhonda? Yeah. So Bethany's on stage to present that on July 9th. And give us kind of an update, and I think that'll be a fun show too. Always need marketing tips.
Let's go ahead and mention July 16th too, because that Jeannie's going to be in charge of that one, and we are doing mid-year goal review. So
we'll do that July 16th. Yes.
Thinking about your mid-year goals and how you've been doing or not doing on goals you might have set in January, and how you might want to have goals for the remainder of the year.
Yeah, kind of a reset. July is a perfect time to reset. Yeah. On that way, and get kind of ready for the for some good action to finish well. Finish well is what I talk about on that. And we'll talk to Rhonda. I've already named this show. We might call it Rhonda's Resource Roundup.
Oh boy, I'm getting out my Western hat.
We'll talk to you about a date and get you scheduled, because you are a wealth of resources. We really do. We appreciate all you guys. We really do. Any last minute comments from anybody, or especially from my co-hosts?
No, it was fun. We need to do it again.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody, and we will see you in 2 weeks on the next Writers Chat. Bye now.
Bye.